There's a lot going on in the MMA world right now. Makhachev versus Poirier just happened. Dana White claiming that John Jones is pound for pound number one. McGregor versus Chandler might not happen. The MMA guru campaigning a fundraiser for his first fighter contracts. But forgettably, the Jared Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov main event. I forgot this fight night card existed, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people did too. I was gonna make a video about why Strickland earned his title shot over Israel Adesanya, but then I remembered Jared Cannonier. Cannonier technically beat Sean Strickland, and Cannonier is coming off more than one win, and it is a fresh matchup for Dricus du Plessis. The problem is that the UFC will not give Cannonier a title shot anytime soon. But overall, this is a very nice fight night main event compared to some of the other ones we had over the last few months. But this is just an appetizer before the Saudi Arabia card, let's be honest. That being said, there are a few fights other than the main event that are kind of hidden gems in my opinion, and I will be giving my takes on all of them. Before we get started though, just know I am not a financial advisor and you should gamble responsibly. With that being said, I want to get straight into Jared Cannonier versus Nassourdine Imavov. I'm going with Jared Cannonier. I have two issues with picking Nassourdine Imavov. He headhunts but has inconsistent knockout power, and he gasses out as the fight drags on. Imavov has power in his hands, yes, but it's not reliable by any means. Fair play, Roman Dolidze probably has a skull made of steel, but Dolidze's not the first opponent Imavov headhunted and could not finish. He did the same thing with Sean Strickland, Joaquin Buckley, and I know this is a no contest, but Chris Curtis. The last time Imavov knocked someone out was against Edmund Shabazian in 2021. Imavov had 4 fights since, and he has yet to find a knockout in 3 years. Jared Cannonier might be the most defensively responsible fighter Nassourdine Imavov has fought or will fight other than Sean Strickland. I don't see Nassourdine Imavov finding the KO shot if he fights the way he does, which is blitzing in and throwing boxing combinations all to the head. The other problem, like I mentioned earlier, is that he gets tired. But when he gets tired, he opts to clinch a lot. The problem with clinching the way Nassourdine Imavov does is that he does absolutely nothing while in the clinch. No elbows, no knees, no level changes, trips, or anything like that. He solely uses the clinch to catch a deep breath before breaking away from the clinch to prepare for boxing range. It is especially noticeable in his fights with Strickland and Dolidze, because Strickland and Dolidze also do not utilize the clinch either, other than to smother you up against the fence. I can understand Strickland and Dolidze struggling to do anything in the clinch because they lack athleticism, but Nassourdine Imavov is athletic enough to do that. Nassourdine Imavov, please use your brain and throw more than 3 elbows or 1 knee up the middle if you are going to spend nearly an entire round and a half in the clinch like you did with Roman Dolidze. And unlike Nassourdine Imavov though, Jared Cannonier is athletic and smart enough to throw elbows and knees whenever their opponents shell up or in clinch. And he has also shown the willingness to throw punches and knees to the body if he cannot find the chin. Cannonier also has some wicked power, and he can probably knock out anybody if he lands a clean shot that's not named Marvin Vettori. I don't know how Marvin Vettori survived this world beating, but Marvin Vettori's chin needs to be studied. That's all I'll say. Overall, the only way I see Nassourdine Imavov winning is in the first round or 2 with a clean boxing combination. If he does not get this early though, Cannonier becomes more dangerous as the fight drags on, while Imavov will begin to fatigue. I am picking Cannonier by a KO/TKO in the later rounds. Moving on, Dominic Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. Dominic Reyes, man. I really hope you prove me wrong, Dominic Reyes, but Dustin Jacoby's too dangerous. Normally, I wouldn't say that about Dustin Jacoby, but this is Reyes we are talking about right now. Reyes has been out with serious medical issues, and he was violently knocked out in all of his last 3 fights. My heart says Reyes will prove me wrong and turn back the clock to when he beat Jon Jones, but my head says Dustin Jacoby will knock him out. Ryan Spann knocked Dominic Reyes out with a jab after Yuri Prochazka broke every bone in Dominic's face. Dustin Jacoby doesn't carry that much power in his strikes, but Reyes' chin is just obliterated at this point. If the fight drags on, I can see Reyes gaining more confidence, but it's a tall task for Reyes to win this fight at this point in his career. Dustin Jacoby will win by knockout, but I hope you can prove me wrong, Reyes. Moving on, another fight that could possibly end early. Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Turcios. This is a layup for Raul Rosas Jr. For those of you who see the odds and think, I might bet on Ricky Turcios and see what happens, you have to understand this. Ricky Turcios does not do anything in the cage. Man cannot strike. He can't keep people on the ground once he takes them down, and he does not know how to submit. There is nothing in Ricky Turcios' game that Raul Rosas Jr. needs to respect. And Raul Rosas Jr. is an aggressive fighter. He will make you fight. I expect Double R Jr. to finish this fight. If I had to pick an exact method, I will say ground and pound TKO. I will say this though, if Double R Jr. does not get the finish, that says a lot about Double R Jr. honestly. Now this is where we get it to the hidden gems of the card. Thiago Moises versus Ludovic Klein. I'm going with Ludovic Klein. My issue with picking Thiago Moises is his striking offense, especially against southpaws. Moises is not a bad counter striker, but he does not initiate on the feet well at all. This is especially noticeable in his fights with Islam Makhachev, Benoit Saint-Denis, and Beneil Dariush, who are all very capable southpaws. Moises was able to submit Michael Johnson a while back, but Johnson was piecing up Moises for a whole round before Moises started to wrestle. I don't understand why grappling-based MMA fighters do this. Shoot the takedown immediately. What are you doing getting beat up on the feet for an entire round before shooting a takedown? Now, Ludovic Klein does not have the grappling credentials of any of the 3 I mentioned above, but Klein is a southpaw with very slick striking who will get inside the pocket with you. And that is where Moises just gets bullied a lot. Unlike Michael Johnson, Klein actually has some offensive wrestling, and he will ground and pound you following a takedown. I will be interested in seeing grappling exchanges between these two, because Ludovic Klein has seemed to improve massively since he got submitted by Nate Landwehr, and Thiago Moises is pretty good on the ground. But overall, I will say Moises will get bullied on the feet because he's dumb and will not shoot a takedown immediately until he's almost out of the fight. And even if it does go to the ground, I don't know if Moises can just have his way with Ludovic Klein. I am picking Klein to win by a dominant decision, but I can also see a round 3 KO. Both Daniel Marcos and John Castaneda are very good fighters, but with glaring flaws in their game. If I had to pick one fighter though, I would take John Castaneda. Now, Daniel Marcos has some slick combos and he is dangerous in the pocket. The problem I have with him though is that he does not initiate at all. Davy Grant was nearly doubling Daniel Marcos' output, and I don't understand how Davy Grant didn't win that fight. Now, I am worried about Castaneda's lack of finishing potential, because the dude couldn't finish cans in the octagon, let's just say that. This means Castaneda has to not get caught for 15 minutes straight, and that's almost hard for anybody, no matter how fast or how slick your footwork is. I can definitely see Daniel Marcos catching him with a right cross down the pipe as Castaneda circles to the power hand, but Castaneda has eaten some bombs before. like when he fought Daniel Santos. And unlike Daniel Santos, I think Daniel Marcos will not be up in Castaneda's face, and he will give Castaneda more space to move around in the cage. Ultimately, I trust in John Castaneda's output over Daniel Marcos' power, because Daniel Marcos cannot initiate offense against a striker with actual spatial awareness. I am taking John Castaneda by a close 29-28 decision, but I wouldn't be mad if Daniel Marcos wins this fight. There's not much to say about the rest of this card. I might bring up some other fighters who impressed me in my reaction video, but I don't really know much about most of these fighters to give a take. Anyways, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.